Hi, my name is Emily Barden and I've been working with Jane and Nancy and the Raise Your Voice team, writing some songs with the Raise Your Voice choir along with Sam here. And we're going to just have a bit of a reflective discussion about the process across the last 18 months or so that's led us to the recording of the album Murmurations. This isn't a tutorial, we're just going to talk about a reflective process, and hopefully some of the things that come out of that conversation might be useful if you're thinking about doing this style of work, or maybe you already are and you just want somebody else's experiences.
So where did it all begin? I think we started this idea of doing an album, came out of us doing a theme with our group back in January last year, so 18 months ago. And we were looking at pictures from an exhibition. So we wanted not to impose a theme on our group, but we wanted to choose the songs around their ideas. So in the first session in January, we invited our participants to bring some paintings, a favourite painting of theirs, to the session, and they did. And we landed up with 8 or 9 paintings, not realising it was their favourite painting from their house. We thought they'd bring Van Goghs or Renoirs or whatever, but they weren't. They were their paintings. And we took a blind vote and we chose 5 of those. And then out of that, we then used those paintings as a springboard for choosing songs. So whether it was about Spain and a heat or a village, or something about France or Italy, or whatever the painting was about. But we had this fabulous abstract painting called Murmurations. And that's when we invited you, Emily, to come, and we thought it'd be lovely to write a song about murmurations. It had such a lovely feel about it, about being an individual within a group and how that might work. And that was the springboard, really, writing that one song, which came from them, their choice of that abstract painting. Let's write a whole album.
I think that's really interesting, that the point at which you start creating the music isn't the point at which you've started having your creative thoughts. Your creative thoughts are about something entirely different, and about something really sensory, about a visual response, and also something personal. So like you said, people brought things from their home, so immediately it carries stories. So when you're hunting for text, or you're hunting for lyrics, or you're hunting for people to contribute, by making that immediate personal connection, this is from my home, this is something I love, I'd like to share it. Immediately it comes loaded with all this content that someone like me and Sam, as songwriters, can immediately tap into. And it's not completely abstract, you're not blank paging it, you're going from something with preloaded stories. And I don't know whether you knew that that's what you were doing, or whether that was just a happy byproduct. Like you were saying, you thought maybe Van Gogh's sunflowers might appear, but they didn't. It was things that people treasured. Yeah. For me, that's been a massive bit of learning in this whole project, is the things that the participants have creatively responded to most successfully have been things with personal stories connected. Absolutely. They've been things they could draw immediately from their own lives, their own feelings. An emotional response has been far more successful. That, for me, that's been a great big bit of learning.
We brought in different props. We had a bird's nest. We had, but you brought in, tell us what you brought.
A mobile, a swallow, a little folded paper mobile. We had it in the recording session today, actually. Yeah. It's just 3 cardboard or paper swallows on a mobile, and it's very light and airy, and they move beautifully. And I think we actually started the session using that as a prompt for the guest music students who were with us visiting from the Royal Academy of Music that day, because that's the other thing that we haven't mentioned, is that a number of the composition songwriting sessions we've been joined by undergrad and postgrad music students from the Royal Academy, which has been wonderful, really, really excellent musicians who've been really beautiful presence in the workshops. And I think we started that session by asking them to improvise in response to the Swallow mobile, and so it's a kind of form of conducted improvisation, really. But I think that set the tone nicely for...
It was coming round with it, and it was moving, and everybody could see the little swallows, and out of that then came gathering together, perching on wires.
I like working with text first. I usually would choose, regardless of the exact process, to try and start with some text, because I think that it gives a structure, and it gives an impetus for musical ideas, and it's also, I think, for most people, I mean, for lots of people, regardless of their stage of life and experience, the idea of creating something musically is quite an abstract idea. It's sort of abstract and technical, and what we do, I'm sure in our different ways, is try and sort of unblock the process so that it can feel instinctive. And so for me, I think one of the things that I try and do is just find kind of fruitful prompts to invite people to share their ideas, but then once people start sharing, just to say yes as much as possible. Yes, we'll have that. Yes, we'll have that, because that sort of demonstrates that people's ideas are welcome. So that kind of then hopefully reinforces the sort of unblocking of a kind of creative flow. So I try and work quite quickly and just invite contributions from anyone in the group and start writing text up on a big flip chart so everybody can see it. Sometimes people might find it difficult, either because they're feeling shy or because of sort of processing delays, to share ideas in a big group. So that another thing that I do sometimes is I'll ask people to sort of chat about it with the people who are sitting, and we'll be sitting in a big circle, but I'll ask people to chat about it with their neighbour or with the person who they came with, and talk about ideas kind of as a pair, and then people can feed into the group. And usually, I'll at least try and get as far as having a verse, which we'll kind of co-create together. We might sort of change it as we go, and we'll have at least a few lines up there before we then start trying to add music to it.
We then chant it, and we find a natural rhythmic pattern collectively, and then you just very gently say, someone give us a melody to go with that. Just sing something over the top, and you might even start playing something underneath it, a chord, or...
Sometimes, I don't know how you go about...
It really varies. Sometimes I will just ask if anybody has got a melody in their head, and sometimes people will just come up with something. Sometimes someone will sing something straight off.
And the bravery, I would say that the bravery as the facilitator is to trust that will happen, and to not be too quick to race in with your own idea because you're worried about silence. Because actually, given the space, somebody does something, and even if somebody just chants I like to maximise the inflection of a chant. So if it becomes apparent that we're all doing this on a phrase, it's like, well, let's exaggerate that. We seem to want it to go up. Where could it go? And somebody in the group will give us a note, and then I try and sort of find where that is and pick up from there, because you also know that if they've sung it, it's in their range because it's come from their voices. So you don't have to worry about, is this key all right? Well, they've sung it to you, so they can clearly sing it. and then sort of wrestle about a bit, exactly you're saying. And I often offer alternative harmonies. I'm like, okay, the thing that you've just done, this fits. Do you like this one? Do you like this one? And then sort of get a general feeling, a temperature test in the room of people going, and you can tell, because immediately you'll do something, people go, or they'll go, they're quite... They sort of let you know whether it's a good idea or not, and then just build. Once you've got an idea, the whole, okay, and let's sing it, and let's not get bored of singing it. We're just going to keep singing it because it beds it in for us. beds it in for the participants, and fundamentally it keeps music being the language of the room. And I think that that's another important thing, is that if it's a creative music making session, you don't want it to become too much about a pen and a paper. You know, and you can go down the rabbit hole of like, oh, should that be an of or an in? And then you can get quite sort of nitty about the little things, but I think I have to catch myself and go, actually, Emily, there's not been enough music. Come on, let's just sing that riff again, and actually check myself that what the participants are experiencing is music first, and that I'm not being too songwritery about stuff, because that's actually not useful.
Repetition leads on to the next thing. I've often seen, right, so what comes next? Well, let's just sing it, and let's sing it again.
Yeah, where are we going?
Where are we going next? So your next line will often, melody line, will come obviously from what we've just sung, and if you sing it enough times, it flows. There's a flow, there's a natural flow. Yeah. It's wonderful seeing how it is created.
And I think that just adds to the sense of this being a community and people feeling that they belong, and it's sort of self-fulfilling then in terms of what you get back, because you've created somewhere that people feel that they can be.